So hello everyone and welcome to the spoiler review, the differences in spoiler review for the 6th episode of the Magia Record anime. So once again, as always, there will be spoilers for the North American and the Japanese version of the Magia Record game. Let's head right in there with what the game does in this part of the story. Starting off, we start out with Iroha being at Banbansai waiting for Nemu to appear because if you think back to what happened at the end of last chapter in the game, what happened is Tsuruno basically told Iroha, hey, I have this restaurant called Banbansai and there's a Hiiragi who sometimes goes there, and full name of Nemu is Nemu Hiiragi. So he says, well, Nemu is probably often coming to my restaurant, so maybe if you sit around my restaurant and just wait for a bunch, maybe you're gonna run into her. So Iroha does that and keeps eating Banbansai food and basically makes Banbansai all of their money. And they do the 50-point gag, although they translated it as a C instead of 50 points, or like a 5 out of 10. Whatever, doesn't matter. So then Yachio is also there and they talk a bit about what happened last time as well. For example, they talk about how they have no idea what happened to Iroha last time. That was weird, wasn't it? Because they still don't know what a doppel is. And then they finally get this idea that, hey, phone books exist? Could we just look up Hiiragi in a phone book and then maybe see if we can make something happen with that? So Iroha and Yachio, or just Iroha, looks up those names in the phone book and goes, well, okay, I've got like 4 of these names. I'm just gonna run around town and just see if any of these are of the correct family and if they know about Nemu, something like this. Also during all of this, Yachio mentioned that she's a model, because we didn't have this information yet, but it's not like this information is really important to the main story, but they do talk about it for a few minutes for some reason. So then Iroha does go around and she checks all these houses and nope, sadly Nemu is in none of these houses. So when Iroha is about to give up, once again, we're about to lose the main story connection, and we don't quite know where we are or what we're doing. But out of nowhere, she just randomly runs into the Wonder Water rumor, where it's just some old guy who in the game has like just this blue silhouette, but looks humanoid, and he just talks to Iroha about, hey, drink this Wonder Water, and it's going to be really nice. It basically just mentioned that it's good, it's just good water, and Felicia and Kyoko, they're also there, and they're all 3 of them, they all 3 drink this amazing Wonder Water of the owl sign or something. So the owl is still part of the rumor in some way. So they do drink it and they go like, oh man, this tastes really good. Can I have some more? And they're like, nope, sorry, only 1 cup a day. And after that, they kind of go away. And at this point, something weird happens. Suddenly a piece of paper appears after Iroha has already moved on, at some later point, and this piece of paper has a 24 on it. He's like, wow, well, that's weird. And then there's a 23 on it. And that's basically the countdown in the game, where in the anime, there was some lucky stuff happening, and then whenever something lucky happened, the number went down. The countdown works completely differently in the game. I'm gonna get more about the countdown in just a bit. First off though, Iroha has gone to all of these Hiiragi houses now, and Nemu is sadly nowhere to be found. So they just go like, yeah, maybe they're just not in the phone book or whatever, we don't really know. So this whole line of reasoning just sort of runs into the sand and doesn't go anywhere. But it's okay, because now we have something else to do. So when Iroha comes back home, when I say back home, back to Yachio's house, she then goes, hey Yachio, I'm gonna have to move to Kamihama at some point. And Yachio's like, why? Why didn't you tell me sooner that you're gonna be moving to Kamihama? Aren't we friends? And Iroha is like, I thought it was just your assistant. And Yachio was like, yeah, of course, assistant. Yachio is really, really bad at hiding that she's into Iroha in the game. And like, you'd be like, Raz, stop shipping these guys. I'm not even the one shipping these guys. The game is shipping them really hard. So yeah, Iroha talks that her parents are moving away soon, and because of that, Iroha is supposed to go to a Kamihama school, and she's supposed to move to Kamihama, which kind of really nicely lines up, while of course in the anime, the parents are already gone before all of this happens. So Iroha is always free to just stay wherever she wants. But here it's like, oh no, Iroha's moving to Kamihama. I hope she finds a room soon, because the dorm at school doesn't have any empty room. I wonder if Iroha is gonna be able to find some place to stay at some house that maybe has a lot of empty rooms. We're going to find out later. So then next day, Iroha is once again at home, then wakes up, and then she finds a whole bunch of papers while she was sleeping. They were like on her like pillow or something when she wakes up. And so she goes over again to Yachio and is like, Yachio, there's these papers. And this is also the point where we've realized what these papers mean. And that all these papers have a decreasing number on it. I think we're all the way up to 11 at this point. And we realize that every full hour that goes by, one more of these papers trickles down from the sky or from somewhere, just magically materializes, and the number keeps decreasing. But we really don't quite know yet what is going on, and Yachio kind of wants to figure out what's going on, because this must be the work of a rumor. This must be the work of an enemy not stand. You know what I mean. And she goes and looks into the Kamihama rumor files. But the Kamihama rumor files, they don't have anything on some sort of rumor that has to do with like paper falling from the sky. And Iroha realizes like, hey, wait a second, this all happened after I started drinking that water. So after I had the first cup of water, that's when this happened. So maybe this is connected, and they decide that maybe they should go and look into this. They then, or I think only just Iroha alone, goes back to where the water station was, like where they gave out the water initially, and it is gone. It's not there anymore. And Iroha is like, maybe I could theoretically wait until they come back, but by then 24 hours might have already passed. I don't have time to wait. Luckily enough, Felicia is just randomly there, and she's like, oh man, I want more water. She doesn't really care about the papers, because the paper stuff has also been happening to Felicia. But Felicia is like, I just want more water. I'd just like to stay hydrated. Which once again, I want to take us a way of telling all you guys out there to take a drink and stay hydrated. That is very important. So after Iroha has talked to Felicia a little bit, Felicia is like, yeah, I don't really care, and wants to go away. But then she decides to stay, because she basically tells Iroha like, hey, wait a second, can we like team up and you give me like money and food and stuff, and that's gonna be nice. And Iroha is like, sure, yeah, whatever you want, man. So after that, we then see in a meanwhile section basically that Yachio is walking around. She's in front of some sort of villa, which I think might be Nanaka's villa. I don't know where Nanaka is, but this is going to come up later as well. And Yachio there notices that there is a rumor spreader, which we know is as the Uwasa-san. So Uwasa-san is spreading rumors all around Sankyo Ward, and I think this is where we talk about the 24-hour rumor. No, we're not gonna quite talk about that yet, but we do at least know that there is this Uwasa-san who is spreading some rumors around. And other people, normal people, the normies, they can't tell that this is some weird rumor being, they imagine it as being some sort of friend, and once the Uwasa-san disappears, they kind of forgot that they were talking to some other person to begin with, but they do remember the rumor, and that's how rumors spread in this way. So Kyoko is also randomly there, and Kyoko is like, yo, the rumor thingy, what is this? So the Kyokster has no idea what's going on, and Yachio just walks up to her and tells her that, well, she knows that both magical girls, so she talks to her about rumors and how rumors work, and the Kyokster doesn't quite get it, but at the same time goes, yeah, I kind of believe you. So the Kyokster has also been getting some of these papers with this countdown dropping down, but she kind of doesn't want to help, because she says that this is really weird explanation. It's really hard to tell, but she says that what they're fighting isn't a witch, and she doesn't know for sure that if they defeat the enemy, that then all the people who are affected by it are fine again. And because she doesn't have a guarantee of that, she doesn't want to help, which is one of the worst excuses for a person not wanting to help that I've ever read in a Madoka story. But I guess the writer just wanted Kyoko to not help and didn't have anything better to write at that point. So Kyoko sadly isn't going to help out at this point, and instead we then move back to Felicia and Iroha, who are now walking along. and trying to find some sort of information. But before they can do anything, they get assaulted, or not really assaulted, but they find a witch nearby. So once they notice that there's a witch, Felicia instantly turns berserk mode, transforms, runs into the barrier, into the labyrinth, and in there she just whacks away at witch minions. And importantly enough, something that is really different from these last episodes, because in the last few episodes, whenever there was a witch, it was also the same witch that we also saw at the corresponding time, at the corresponding point in the game. So the game and anime both had the same witches. For some reason, we're having a different witch now that we had in the anime. So I'm going to talk about the anime witch later on, but in here we have witch minions called Ekaterina that belong to the, what is it called? The rooftop witch, Stacy. So we don't see the witch just yet. I don't think we see the witch at all, like in the story segments, but it is indeed the witch Stacy that we are dealing with, and her minions Ekaterina, and she's the rooftop witch. Sadly, however, the witch escapes, and Felicia kind of sad about having lost a witch, and she's still kind of berserking, but she does calm down eventually. So afterwards, then we all of them meet up together. And Yachio, when she sees that Iroha is running around with Felicia, Yachio basically tells Iroha that she should not be dealing with this person because this person is dangerous. And Felicia takes this time to also argue with Tsuruno as well. And at this point, they also mention something important, and Yachio says that Felicia might be prone to switching sides if someone else gives her a better deal, which is a setup for something that happens later as well. There's also a fun little joke about how old Yachio is, because they keep making fun of how old Yachio is for some reason at some point. So at this point then, they kind of do decide, okay, whatever, Iroha, you can stay with Felicia, I don't care, I'm gonna do stuff with Tsuruno instead, because she's at least a bit more mature. So Iroha and Felicia, they team up again, and they now try to find more infos, and they run again into the witch that they ran into earlier. And it is indeed Stacy. Felicia once again completely goes berserk, mows down minions, and she accidentally damages Iroha while she's wildly swinging around. Something that could have easily happened in the anime as well, to like make it more obvious just how much of a menace Felicia is, but they didn't do it. So Felicia, of course, she mows down the witch, she completely destroys it at this point, and she also talks quite quickly about how she can't help herself going berserk because, oh no, I have dead parents and they were killed by a witch, so I need to kill all the witches that I can find to somehow get revenge on my dead parents. Oh. So after they've defeated the witch, they then accidentally or somehow run into Uwasa-san. And Uwasa-san then tells the rumor, and the rumor in the game is quite different than it is in the anime. In the game, the rumor is basically you drink some really good water that tastes nice, and then after 24 hours, misery strikes. That's basically the rumor in the game. It doesn't particularly mention that you're gonna have good luck for a specific amount of times. So the whole 24 times that you are lucky is also something that completely the anime made up, and I'm gonna go more into the differences later as well. But for now, just know that it's not quite as obvious what exactly bad stuff happens, and it's also not quite clear what the water itself does other than tasting nice. So after this rumor has been told, they then also kind of realize that the guy that has been giving the water must have been some sort of illusion, and that maybe that was actually some sort of rumor being, but they didn't perceive it as such. So then at this point they all want to, well, not they all, I mean Iroha and Felicia, they want to follow the Uwasa-san and see where it's going. Maybe they can find some more information. But by following the Uwasa-san, they then suddenly get ambushed by some black feathers of the Wings of Magus, and they just drag them around. They just say, oh no, we're being dragged off into an alleyway, and they don't seem to fight back for somehow. So once they've been dragged into an alleyway, the black feathers kind of want to talk to them, but before they can talk to them, Felicia just whacks them a bunch, and then Tsuruno and Yachio also appear, and at this point the feathers then actually do manage to talk to them for a little bit. And what the Black Feathers say is basically that they should stop going after rumors, because they need the rumors for something. And at this point, something also that is very interesting is that Tsuruno is somehow really intelligent and can tell exactly what the feathers are saying next. She's basically Joseph Joestar, so she can tell what they're thinking, she can tell what their deal is immediately. She's really good at that. And basically what the feathers want to do is, like I said, they want him to stop. And she also realizes that actually these feathers, they're pretty weak. They can't fight for shit. So the thing is, since the feathers just want them to back off and not investigate the rumor again, that would mean that this bad stuff would come to pass and it would happen. And they're like, wait a second, but if we don't go after the rumor now, this bad stuff is going to happen and might be disastrous to us. It might kill us. We might disappear. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But can this bad stuff like not happen? And the Black Feathers are like, yeah, well, tough luck, eh? They don't really care too much. So then at this point, Yachio sort of takes Felicia to his side and goes like, hey, Felicia, I need to talk to you for a second. And after a little bit, they then just go and fight back against the Black Feathers. And yes, the Black Feathers really are completely weak and pushovers, and they're just there to be made fun of. The game doesn't really take them seriously. They're just like, can you like not? Just don't do it, okay? And once they get into a fight, they're like, we can't fight though. We didn't really think this through. Guys, wait, why are my friends running? They're like completely incompetent and can't do shit. So noticing this, then Felicia randomly brings up like, hey, Black Feathers, you guys are really weak, but I could join you for a really high price. And then maybe we can win this fight on your side, you know? Wouldn't that be amazing? So Felicia does end up joining the Black Feathers at this point, and the rest of the team, they run away. And after they've run away, Yachio is like, oh man, you know how you keep trusting people. You can't keep trusting people so easily. You should have known that Felicia is a backstabber. But then Yachio right after that goes, psych! I was just messing with you. I told Felicia to switch sides because I'm paying her to be a spy for us. So Felicia is actually spying on the Black Feathers now. And this is where this part ends and where we are basically at the same point where the anime is. This whole revelation with Felicia was being told to be a spy. The reason I brought this up is because I don't think the anime is going to do this. I really don't think the anime is going to do this because there was no setup for this whatsoever. And in the game, Felicia sort of went on her own like, hey guys, can I join you? Which was rather suspect that she just immediately goes, wait a second, these really weak guys that I've just beaten up instantly, I'm just going to join them for no specific reason just yet. Because I want to get paid later at some point, I don't know. And you also had the setup of Yachio talking to Felicia in secret just before that. So there has been some setup even before it's revealed. I mean, they reveal it like 2 minutes later. But even before they reveal it, you do have the setup of Felicia being set up as a spy. None of this happens in the anime. I'm of course going to go over the anime as well. But since none of this happens in the anime, I'm fairly certain that they're going to go a different way and they're not going to have Felicia be a spy. So now let's go over what the anime does. So first off, we start with Felicia's Mago Shoujo story, her MSS, her side story, her backstory, whatever you want to call it. So this is something that of course didn't happen in the game, at least not in the main story, where you see Felicia fighting with the Nanaka Mafia. And the enemies they are fighting are the minions of the Symbol Witch. Not symbol like the musical instruments, but symbol as in like letters. They were symbols, you know. And the Symbol Witch minions are just numbered echoes 1 through 4. So they're like evolving from stage 1 to stage 4 with the legged ones on the chairs, the humanoid looking guys being echo 4 and the small eggs being echo 1. So they're fighting these enemies, which in the game, by the way, are used as enemies that drop experience gems. So there's these. So if you like Fate Grand Order, they're basically the hands with the experience gems. That's what these enemies basically are. They're just experience pinatas. But in here, we see that the nature of the symbol witch and the way symbol witch minions is to proliferate, which is also why the Echo Force have this weirdly somewhat sexual tone to them, because they're like spreading their legs into the camera. But yeah, it's because the nature of these minions is to proliferate, and it's also why there's so many of them, because they just keep multiplying like rabbits. Which is also why in the game they use this experience pinatas, because there's so many of them. Nice. Some consistency right there. So the Nanaka Mafia, of course, is made up of, going from left to right. In case you're an anime only for some reason want to get spoiled, they're not going to be important to main story. They're basically just background characters that usually don't even appear in the main story at all until like way later, and then they only have cameos. So since they're just cameos, I can just tell you about them for a little bit. If you're anime only and you want to hear about this. So from left to right we have Akira, who is, she punches dudes, she has the kung fu power, karate power, actually I think it's karate, that she does. And fun fact is, she kind of is drawn and looks like a really butch lesbian kind of archetype, but the twist is she's heterosexual. Wow, what a deep and amazing character. Next up on the side of her, the like cherry colored haired, is that what you would call it? Cherry, like purple, pinkish haired? That's Nanaka, who is the leader of Nanaka Mafia. She's basically Yagami Light in that she's insanely intelligent and she likes to manipulate people to fulfill her goals. It's just that she's not evil, so she's a good character who likes to manipulate people into helping her. That's basically the whole shtick of Nanaka. Nanaka is also the kind of character who can't really exist alongside main characters in the main story, because she's so pragmatic and intelligent and manipulative that if she was dealt a problem, she would find a very easy way of dealing with it, and you can be like, wait a second, if it's too easy for Nanaka to solve problems, she could probably just solve all the problems the characters have and then the story would be over. Yeah, let's keep her out of the story. Let's have our main characters like Iroha and Felicia and Tsuruno not be that smart, because if the main characters are less smart, they're not gonna find easy solutions, and it's gonna prolong the episode and prolong the story and lead to a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah. Nanaka also knows that Kyubey is the real enemy, and Nanaka even in her MSS says fighting Kyubey will be my true revenge, something like that. So yeah, Nanaka, she's amazing. I'm gonna do a video on her at some point because she has also quite a lot of character depth to her. Next to her is the absolute opposite of character depth. It's Mayu. I mean, she's surrounded by characters who aren't very deep. I mean, Akira on one side and Mayu on the other side. Mayu is just a Chinese kung fu girl who is part of the Yakuza. I mean, she says it's not the Yakuza, but it's the Yakuza. And that's basically her entire character. At least in the back we have the green-haired, the noodle-haired girl, that's Kako, who has some amazing abilities. She's actually really powerful because she has this amazing ability that she can instantly charm any person that she talks to and makes them a friend. So she can instantly befriend everyone, and more importantly, she has the amazing, unique ability to instantly add any girl that is 13 years old to her personal harem called Organization 13. And in that harem in the game, it's her, it's Felicia, and it's Ayame that are part of that harem. Oh my god, she's very powerful in doing that. You really need to be aware of that. Like, she usually goes around and is like, are you 13? Do you want to join my team? Basically, she's like that. We love Kako. And of course, right next to that is Felicia, who's not part of Nanaka Mafia. She's just helping out as a mercenary. She's like getting paid for this. So yeah, they fight the minions, and Felicia's being an idiot, as always. And we cut away, the opening happens, whatever. And then Iroha wakes up in Yachio's house, of course. And as I mentioned also in my other review, her phone is suddenly charged. And I did make a joke out of this, like, yeah, Yachio charged her phone while she's sleeping. But I do think that in an anime like this, that is so heavy on many symbolisms and references, I just assume it's supposed to be a reference to her soul gem having been refilled. Because right after this, Iroha mentions, like, hey, wait a second, my soul gem was suddenly refilled. That's weird. So I just assume it's going to be that, like, artistic liberty and not something that doesn't make sense. Nice. So Iroha then eats breakfast with Yachio, and Iroha, like I said, mentions his also being cleaned, and Yachio doesn't quite know what has happened, so she just doesn't really say anything. And after that, Iroha then says, well, since it's Saturday and I have nothing else to do, I might as well walk around the city, look at some sights, get to know the city, because like I said also earlier in the other review, Iroha doesn't really know the city yet, so she just goes around and wants to get a better understanding of the city. And at this point, she then walks around, and Yachio tells her to basically not show up as a magical girl. You want to look like a normal girl, because people in this town can be rather territorial, especially in the east. Don't go to the east, that's like enemy territory, don't do that. But of course, Iroha just is so aloof that she accidentally ends up there later. But at least it was mentioned, because this is also something that in some places in the story, in the game, it is actually rather important that territories exist and that characters have to respect territories, but it's not really often brought up, but it's always something that is something to be considered. So I like at least that the anime is making a point of this. Like, hey, look out for territories. You don't want to distrust territory, especially not the east. Although Iroha did mention that after she had seen all the sights, she would have gone home. But of course we can't have her go home yet before we have the next story hooks. So she walks into it looks like an abandoned construction site, or at least a place where construction would have gone on something. And in there she then stumbles upon the next rumor, where we also see some civilians on the side as well, by the way. Once again, drawing attention to there being civilians involved as well, because in the game they always often just mention like, hey, some people might have gone missing, or some people might have gotten affected by this, but we don't often see that actually being the case. I think they showed once in the shrine rumor, but not really in any other place. But in here, they once again show like, hey, there's civilians on the side, and they're also part of this rumor in some way. And Iroha walks up there, and to us, it really looks like there's some rumor stuff going on there. This does not look normal, but to the characters, it does look normal. They don't perceive it as something being out of place. And as I mentioned in the game, when they initially drank the water, the guy that they were drinking it from, they looked to them like a normal guy, but then later on they went, wait a second, that guy, if he was part of the rumor, maybe he actually he wasn't a normal guy, maybe he was some weird rumor minion and we just didn't notice. So at least we do see that here visually, that the characters are perceiving things differently than we are. So in here, the Lucky Owl water is once again mentioned, and they drink the Lucky Owl water, and interesting enough, the Lucky Owl water does indeed talk about how the water is going to bring you good luck, and that you should keep drinking it to keep getting more good luck. So also similarly to the game, they also say you only get one per day, and if you want more, you have to come back the next day. Although there are some differences here and there, but I will get more into those in a little bit. First off, Felicia is also there, but not the Kyokster. The Kyokster is handled very differently in the anime, which I like quite a lot, because in the game, she was kind of just there. She was like, oh, I'm also part of the rumor now, but I don't care, and she walks away, and that's pretty much all that happens. But here, she's not even mentioned yet, because she has a different role. But Felicia, she likes the Lucky Owl water, and they wanted to come back probably the next day as well, because the water also tastes nice. Nice. Iroha at this point also realizes that she has accidentally entered Kosho Ward, which I think is I forgot. I'm not that good on different wards, but I know it's in the east. I think it's the more richer parts of the east, compared to Daito, which is like the poor part of the east. Not 100% certain on this, but she does enter Kosho Ward, which is where this is located. Interesting enough, in the game, it's in Sankyo Ward. What does this mean? I don't know. They just put it in a different place. There might be some reasons why that we might see next episode. I mean, this is the spoiler review, I can talk about this. They might want to tie it into the Nays, because I think Tsukuyo is from Kosho. Or no, Tsukasa is from Kosho. One of them is from Kosho. Maybe that's why they put it over in that other spot. Also, it makes more sense that a rumor that gives good luck and is sought after by gamblers would be more popular in a richer part of the town. So maybe they wanted to do it that way. And if that is indeed why they put it into a different location, that's some mad props right there, because that is a detail that doesn't really matter for the most part. Like 99.99% of people won't even care or notice that there is a difference, but they still did it in order to make it make more sense. Like I said, if that's why they did it. I like details though, so that's really cool. So then Felicia walks up to her and she notices that Iroha was a magical girl and she wants money for coming into another territory. And this is not really Felicia's territory because Felicia doesn't have a territory as far as I know. But Felicia realizes that Iroha is kind of a noob. So she's just like, let's scam the noob because that works. And I mean, she would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling witch. So the witch appears and Felicia, of course, instantly goes berserk again and smashes the witch. And the witch is a witch that we don't know the name of, but we know it is the Symbol Witch. Because the Symbol Witch doesn't actually appear in the game. We don't even know what it looked like in the game. But in here, they just randomly brought it in because they were like, well, we already used the minions of the Symbol Witch. Might as well bring the Symbol Witch in proper and have her die. Also something to note that comes in later parts as well. We see a grief seed, we see Kyoko have a grief seed later as well, and we notice that all of these grief seeds have the exact same design. And as I mentioned earlier, the witch likes to proliferate. And this is also, like I said, some of the lewd designs from the Echo 4 minions. It is possible that this witch not only spawns more familiars that then grow into witches, but also that she might be able to proliferate into multiple grief seeds. Because usually, at least that's the way that I thought, is that when a witch makes a familiar and the familiar then later on grows into its own witch, that witch then doesn't drop a grief seed, only the original witch would drop a grief seed. But it seems like, at least if it's not a mistake that they all look the same, if it's intentional that all these grief seeds look the same, then I would say that maybe the Symbol Witch does have the unique power of proliferating in such a potent way that it actually creates more grief seeds. That would be quite amazing. And of course, they would all look the same at that point. So Felicia one-shots the Symbol Witch, and like I said, we don't have the name for it because even though the witch didn't appear in the game, maybe we would have still been able to figure out the name if there were witch runes. There were no witch runes for this witch. There were some witch runes for the Echo minions, but those witch runes didn't actually say Echo. They said, we have the right to breed, if you wanted to translate that. So yeah, for some reason they just don't give us the witch runes anymore for witches. They also didn't give us witch runes for Sola and for Giovanna in episode that came before this. So I don't know why, maybe they just randomly gave up on it, which sounds weird because why would they give up on witch runes, especially Inukuri, because I thought Inukuri was really big into witches and all the stuff surrounding it. So I don't know why they just randomly don't do it anymore. Hopefully, maybe they're going to fix it in the Blu-ray release, where they're just going to randomly copy-paste them in. Who knows? So after the Symbol Witch has been defeated, Felicia then goes, hey, more money, please. And Iroha, once again, just kind of goes along with it. But since Iroha doesn't quite have the money to pay her off, she instead invites her to eat some ice cream. And they eat ice cream together, and it's being shown at this point that they are very lucky. And every time something lucky happens, the number decreases. And this is also where we see that the countdown is very different. In the game, it was just a random countdown for 24 hours. And when the countdown ran out, some bad stuff would happen you don't know. It was very much undefined. Even once you knew about the rumor, you still didn't know what was actually going on other than some countdown. But in here, it does make a lot more sense in that you know what's going on and it's a lot more well defined. You have 24 cases of good luck, and then your good luck runs out, and then instead you're going to get bad luck to counteract the good luck that you had. But if you want to keep having good luck, you will have to keep drinking the water. More on that later as well. So afterwards, we also get a meanwhile section at this point, where Yachio, she visits Mitama, and when she walks up to Mitama's place, we also see Nanaka Mafia walk by again, and they badmouth Felicia a little bit. And once Mitama welcomes Yachio, then Yachio notices this wanted poster. By the way, when I initially saw this, I thought to myself, how did they get a photo of Felicia? And then I realized, wait a second, if they got a photo of Felicia, probably after the minions had been defeated, they probably told Felicia, like, hey, you want to get like a victory shot? You want to pose for a victory shot? And Felicia was like, yeah, let's do a victory photo, eh? And then they took that photo and hung it up. And I felt quite happy having come up with this headcanon, because it was a funny little headcanon. And then an hour after the episode released, I saw someone on Twitter tweet exactly that, and I was like, why didn't I tweet that? I had the idea first. Why didn't I tweet it? I was too late. Anyway, so she notices the wanted poster, and Mitama tells her, like, hey, that Felicia is up to no good again. Make sure you don't do anything with that girl. And Mitama, interestingly enough, this is the very interesting bit, Mitama has the information about the Lucky Owl Water. In the game, they just didn't have any information whatsoever until they found Uwasa-san. In this case, Mitama is like, yeah, I have the information. You want to have it? You have the information. We don't actually get the information on screen because, first off, we need to have a little cut-in with the Kyokster. But before we do that, I want to mention something about the Nanaka Mafia and Felicia's side story. And I'm going to spoil Felicia's backstory if you don't want to hear it. I don't care. This is the spoiler part. So in the backstory, we see, similar to how this episode starts, that Felicia was part of Nanaka Mafia for like 1 or 2 hits on some witches, where she was supposed to be paid off to fight some witches, but she just jumped into action, and some of her teammates got into danger because of it. And then she got kicked out of Nanaka Mafia unceremoniously, and the Nanaka Mafia then went around to tell other people, like, hey, don't work together with Felicia. And then at some point, Felicia then, she needs money and food to survive, so she walks up to Asuka and Sasara and is like, hey, can I have some work, please? And Asuka and Sasara, they realize that this is Felicia, so they tell her, no, you have too bad of a reputation, we don't want you to put us in danger, we can't have that. So afterwards, then some other stuff happens, and later they do end up teaming up because Felicia is trying to get better. She's trying to not be that much of a problem, and she really needs to survive. And there were also some people telling some lies about Felicia. They told them that Felicia was charging exorbitant amounts of money, which she's not. So there's also a lot of bad mouthing, and basically Nanaka Mafia, or probably just Nanaka, because I don't think Akira or Kako would ever do anything bad, like lying. Mayu might, because Mayu also has no scruples whatsoever. So that all happens, and during all of that, Kako, because she realized that Felicia is the same age, and like I said, Kako has the ability to add anyone who's age 13 to a harem, and Felicia is age 13. She's like, I want to add Felicia to my harem. So what she does is she walks up to Kyubey and talks a bit to Kyubey, and during that talk, Kyubey actually tells Felicia's backstory, and he basically says that it wasn't a witch that killed Felicia's parents. She accidentally killed her parents herself by burning her house down, and afterwards she wished for the fire to be undone, but the wish instead granted her deepest desire, and her deepest desire at that moment was to not be responsible. She couldn't bear the responsibility, so the wish basically shoved the responsibility onto a witch, and Felicia's memories were changed so that she, from now on, thinks it was a witch that killed her parents, because she, like I said, she herself couldn't bear the responsibility. The reason why I tell you that entire backstory right there is because of the chronology. All of this happens before the events of MagiReco, and it can only happen before the events of MagiReco because Kyubey is the only one who knows her backstory. No one else but Kyubey knows this bit about Felicia's backstory. But in MagiReco, Kyubey cannot enter the city anymore. He cannot be in the city. Therefore, you can't have a character tell you Felicia's backstory because no one else is around who knows it. So therefore, it does make more sense for the introduction of Felicia that you put this part of her MSS into the main story, and I'm very happy that they did that. I love that they do this because this is a way better way of, for one part, understanding how much of a problem Felicia can be in battle, while also at least having a cameo for some other characters that right now aren't important but might appear way later in the story. And it also makes the entire city seem more alive, because in Mitakihara there was like 5 or 6 magical girls, but in here the entire city is full of magical girls, so we do get to see more other magical girls to get this understanding that this is like a city that's alive. There's so many magical girls here. So I like this as well. It's good world building, good character introduction for Felicia. I really like this part, but like I said, it screws with the chronology, because now that her backstory is here, we can't have this other bit of her backstory where we are told her true backstory. However, doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, it makes Felicia more tragic as a character that she goes through her entire life hunting witches because she believes a witch killed her parents, when instead she killed her parents herself and is just trying to forget about it as hard as she can. And like I said, it does make her more tragic of a character, but for the actual main story, doesn't really matter. Like, the main story doesn't change at all, even if Felicia knows or doesn't know her backstory, or if anyone else knows her backstory. So it's not a problem for the main story that this bit has been kicked out, but it does mean now that we're probably never gonna get this bit of backstory. Even if at some point they do OVAs where they might tell us some more backstories for characters, we also wouldn't get this, because now the chronology just can't line up anymore. Unless they have this scene happen in a completely different way. It's possible they put it in a different way, but for now, the big takeaway is they put the important parts of her backstory into here to make, like I said, improve world building and improve her character introduction, but therefore remove the reveal of her true backstory. Good. Now, to continue on where we left off, Kyoko is at the roof of the building. And at this point, Kyoko basically just says, "Hey, Yachio, you're the strong around here," and the Kyokster wants to hunt witches in the area. So Yachio agrees, as long as Kyoko follows the rules, because like I said also in my other review, Yachio must realize that there's so many more girls coming to the city and she can't stop all of them. So why not just let them hunt witches, because there's also a lot more witches and a lot stronger witches. As long as they don't break any rules, it's gonna be fine, I guess. The Kyokster is fine with this and moves on, and also something to note is they still keep talking about how witches are gathering in the city and how they are becoming stronger. Something that is brought up only briefly sometimes in the game, but in the anime keeps being brought up all the time. Like, hey dude, someone's gathering witches, something is going on, something is weird, pay attention to this. So at this point, we then see Iroha and Felicia walking around the city, and they have a lot of good luck, strokes of good luck here, but it keeps dropping the counter down and down and down. At some point, Felicia also then mentions in the restaurant that Iroha was intruding on Eastern Territory. So once again, they bring up the territorial issues, especially Eastern Territory, which I like as well. So Iroha then takes this moment and says like, hey, do you know about Ui? But Felicia, of course, does not know about Ui. And they end up talking then a bit about Felicia continuing to work for Iroha for more money and for more food, because Felicia has dead parents, and of course at this point she does mention like, hey, my parents are dead and I kind of need this stuff to survive, because otherwise I can't survive anymore. So after this, Yachio calls Iroha up and tells her to basically come over and talk about the Lucky Owl water. And Iroha just brings Felicia along, and Yachio doesn't like this, but Tsuruno is also there, and she also doesn't like it. So the Tsuruno and Felicia, they start fighting again, and Yachio instead then talks to Iroha and kind of scolds her for not having hid the fact that she's a magical girl better. And she also doesn't want Iroha to play along with Felicia because Felicia is dangerous. But she still also kind of agrees to having her around, even though she does not like it. This is then also the point where Yachio then shares the information of this new rumor of the Lucky Owl water together with the rest of the team. And like I said, the rumor is different in the anime in that it's more clearly defined. And just quickly go over it. The rumor is basically you drink this water and it gives you really good luck 24 times. Afterwards you get really bad luck to counteract the good luck, but if you keep drinking the water, it's going to reset the timer, or it's just going to give you more tries. So the idea is that once you start drinking the water, you have to keep drinking the water every day in order to shove the bad luck aside. So now we know exactly what it does. We know what happens when we don't do it, and now we have a reason to keep drinking it every day. Like a long-term, it's more long-term, and it makes sense for it to be less malicious, because when it's more long-term and less malicious, you get to gather more energy, because that's what the idea of all of this is. So they want to go and find more information about this rumor, but Felicia at first doesn't want to deal with any of this and Control wants to walk away because she doesn't really care. But Felicia once again is brought back with the promise of first money and then food. So Felicia likes food, so she stays around. So the team then very quickly heads over to the construction site where they originally found the Lucky Owl water. And the Lucky Owl water stand is indeed here, unlike it was in the game. So they find the stand again and they are trying to get some more information out of it. But before they can really get anything out of it, Felicia just walks in and smashes the rumor and it disperses. And good job, Felicia, you ruined it. They also then sort of tell Felicia like that this was not anything good, because now Iroha also has to suffer the same consequences. If it was only Felicia that screwed herself over, Yachio probably wouldn't have cared, but now Felicia screwed over herself and Iroha, and that's bad. What isn't bad is that the Kyokster is for some reason on the roof and has been listening in, and the Kyokster of course doesn't know about rumors and all that sort of stuff. I assume the Kyokster has just been following Yachio just in order to get generally more information about the city, because gathering information is always nice. And now the Kyokster has found out about rumors and of the stuff that are the things that are happening in the city. What any of that is gonna mean for the next episode, I don't know, because like I said, they handled the Kyokster very differently in the anime, so they're setting up something completely different, while in the game it was kind of out of necessity that the Kyokster was brought into this, because she's suffering now for the same consequences. And in the next chapter in the game, not the next chapter, the same chapter but later parts, the Kyoko does actually join the team up again, and they do fight the Uwasa together. While in here, the Kyokster doesn't have to come along really, but she might anyway, just to see what's going on. We don't know. So at this point, the team then tracks down Uwasa-san in Kosho Ward, and after they've tracked down the Uwasa-san, they follow it, and the Black Feathers appear. And the Black Feathers in the anime are a lot more menacing. They look a lot more evil than they do in the game. Like I said, in the game they're kind of a joke, because they just make terrible choices all the time. But in here, it actually looks like there is some sort of weight behind what they're saying, not just because of the way they're speaking, but it seems like they mean business. It seems like they're menacing. It seems like they're evil. And Yachio and Tsuruno, they kind of realize that we probably have to fight them, because the Black Feathers mention that they kind of want them to stop eradicating the rumors, because the Magius is going to save us all, and the Magius is going to eradicate all the witches, and what you're doing is interfering with that. Please stop. But at least they have a solution for dealing with the rumor, because like I said, in the game they were just like, well, if you're not gonna stop with if you're gonna follow what we want to do, you have to stop fighting this rumor, and bad stuff might happen to you. We don't care. But in here they say that you can get more water every day and it's gonna be fine. We're giving you a solution. It might not be a solution that you like, but even though we seem really, really evil, we're still giving you a solution, a way out, even if you do have to drink the water every day. So after the Black Feathers have talked to them about this, like I said, Yashiro and Tsuruno, they have none of it and they kind of want to fight them. But Felicia and Iroha, they aren't quite sure. And Felicia especially, she's being talked to by the Black Feathers. And they tell Felicia, if you want, you can join us. We know about you. We know you hate witches, right? Well, we want to eradicate all the witches, and we're going to let you kill as many witches as you want. And eventually there's going to be no witches. Don't you love that? And Felicia has a really good reason at this point to join, because she hates witches more than she likes money and more than she likes food. She really wants to kill all witches. So being presented by this, it is reasonable at this point that Felicia does switch sides. So they actually managed to give a more convincing reason why Felicia would change sides, and more so, they never set up that Felicia is going to turn spy. So I think that she is in earnest going to join at this point, but that later, either Hiiragi doesn't manage to talk her out of it, because this is also something that happens later in the chapter in the game, where originally, of course, Felicia joins as a spy, but after Felicia has talked to the Black Feathers a bit more, she actually wants to join them in earnest. And at that point, Hiiragi then talks to her some more, and she manages to talk her out of it. And I don't know if they're going to do this in the game. I assume in the anime. I assume they're going to do it because Felicia has to join the team again somehow. So I assume they're just going to have Hiiragi talking her out of it, and they're just going to completely drop this whole spy thingy. And at this point, the episode is over, and the end card is the Nace. On the left, we have Tsukasa, who is going to get gut punched by Tsuruno and gets KO'd. And on the right, we have Tsukuyu, who is going to have her leg broken by Yachio. And I hope we get to see that animated in the anime. Here's to hoping that we're gonna see animated leg break. This is the one thing that I want from this anime. If someone asks me, what's the one thing you want from the MagiReco anime, even if you get nothing else, even if you just get this one thing, I would say, please, 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 give me the animated leg break. Do it. I want to see animated. I'm out for blood on this one. Don't get me wrong, I love the Nace. The Nace are really precious cinnamon rolls that don't deserve anything bad happening to them. But at the same time, it's quite funny meme. I don't know how to say it, but I just kind of want to see it, you know? So now that we're over with going over both the game and the anime, just some very quick thoughts about what I thought. Once again, it's a lot more straightforward, more streamlined, less back and forth, less chaotic, more of a logical through line. The same thing I've been saying for all the other episodes. Like I said, we're probably not going to get the Felicia spy thing. Felicia's just joining in earnest right away. Instead of first being a spy and then deciding to join in earnest, she's going to be earnest from the start. Also, the rumor is less malicious, more long-term oriented, and is also better defined. So once again, all across the board, everything is better. So yeah, not too much to say about this, because it's, for the most part, very similar stuff to all the other differences in spoiler reviews, where at the end I just go over some of the stuff that I like that the anime did better, but the aspects that the anime does better than the game are kind of being the same every episode at this point. So yeah, that was that. If you want to see more MagiReco content, leave that subscribe. Why did I say leave subscribe? No, hit the subscribe button, and then I'll see you guys next time. I need to work on my advertisement.